It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Midlife is a time when we face a choice. We can stay settled in old routines and fixed beliefs, or we can expand outward toward new horizons. Joining us today is Dr. Gay Hendricks, a pioneer in the fields of relationship transformation and mind-body therapies. He's here today to discuss how we can transform our relationships so we're not just surviving, but thriving in our full capacity for love. Dr. Hendricks is the author or co-author of more than 40 books, including bestsellers such as 5 Wishes, The Big Leap, and Conscious Loving. He's the co-founder of the Hendricks Institute and has appeared on radio and television, including Oprah, CNN, CNBC, and CBS's 48 Hours. Welcome, Dr. Hendricks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Joan. Great to be with you again.
Gay, it seems like there are so many changing dynamics in relationships today. More and more people are getting divorced, which means that more people are back in the world of dating during midlife than ever before. And often, the relationships of those that stay married are dull and without passion. So what do you believe is happening in society today that is having a major impact on the way we relate to others?
Well, I think there are several things, Joan. One is the increase of technology that in one way makes it a lot easier to communicate. Like you can send a text to your friend in Calcutta, India, and they can, you can be walking down the street in Chicago and get the text back in 2 seconds. And so in one way, communication has gotten a lot easier as technology has increased. But in another way, it's made it more difficult because fewer and fewer people are learning how to communicate face-to-face and heart-to-heart, when they're actually in each other's presence. There's one thing if you're sending a text to somebody, but it's another thing if you're resonating with them up close and personal. And so technology can be your friend, but it can also get in the way of authentic communication. One of the things that we talk about a lot in the new book, Conscious Loving Ever After, is that especially once you get up to 40 years of age or so and in the second half of your life, it becomes really more and more important to make those heartfelt connections with other people. Now, not just in the form of technology, sending them a text or whatever, but the ability to really be with another person and communicate your true feelings and listen to the other person's true feelings, that those kinds of things are really things that you need to cultivate experiences down in your body. It's not just, something you can do in your head. So one of the things that in our seminars, like my wife, Katie, also known as Kathleen, she just finished doing a couples course, and she got to see one miracle after the other. She was telling me of couples who were not communicating when they came in the door, but then when they went out the door 3 days later, they were in that state of being able to feel a full flow of intimacy between them and being able to communicate clearly and authentically. And so one of the things in our work that we get to see all the time are what I call ordinary miracles, which are really extraordinary miracles, which are things that you don't usually think of as miracles, but I do, because if a person hasn't been communicating with another person clearly for 10 years and suddenly they're able to be in the flow of intimacy again, that's really, to me, a miracle, and we need more of those kind of miracles on our planet.
And Gay, what do you think is the difference between those couples that seek out the help that you just described and the other ones that look outside or just end the marriage without exploring options?
Well, that's really a good question because, nowadays, too, you have, everybody hears the term 50%, about 50% divorce rate, but nobody ever mentions that for second and third marriages, the divorce rate is even higher. That for second marriages, I think it's 57%, and for third marriages, it's more than 60%. So there are a lot of people, even in the later stages of life, who are suddenly becoming single. And, well, here's the way I say it. There are three kinds of relationships. One kind of relationship is what most everybody is in, which we call a learning relationship, where you're in a relationship with somebody and there are certain things you need to learn, and if you can learn them, then things start to flow again. Like 4 out of 5 people are in those kinds of relationships. But there's this small segment of what we call toxic relationships, which are relationships where it's gone so far that it's really making both people sick, to put it bluntly, that the relationship has got so much toxicity in it that you can't really feel good and you can't feel at optimum health anymore. So in those kind of relationships, sometimes people do need to break up. But 4 out of 5 times, people need to go from what I call a learning relationship to get to what we call a celebratory relationship, where it's not so much about learning anymore. You've learned what you need to learn, but now you're in the business of celebrating each other and celebrating your own potential and celebrating the potential of the relationship. So there's a tiny percentage of people in those toxic relationships and a tiny percentage of people on the other end in those celebratory relationships. But most of us are in learning relationships where there are just certain things we need to learn in order to have the relationship flow again. But here's the thing. Most people get into a despair because they keep repeating the same old patterns, and they don't go in for some help, or they don't go to a retreat for the weekend, or they don't sit down with a good book like Conscious Loving Ever After. They instead just keep repeating the same old patterns. And we've had couples in here, one couple I'm thinking of right now, that had been basically having the same argument for 25 or 30 years, and they never had found a way to get through it. And what's beautiful in our work is that, within an hour they were hugging each other again, because even though they hadn't been communicating, it's never too late to really get things flowing between you.
So talking about those same old patterns, for someone then who is divorced and is experiencing that breakup and looking at those statistics you just mentioned, how do we keep from making those mistakes? I mean, it's scary to start over again at this age.
Well, one of the things we talk about in Conscious Loving Ever After, possibly the most important thing in the book, especially in the second half of life, after you get up into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it becomes super important to get a relationship going with your own creative essence. In other words, everything you can do, especially at midlife and beyond, that you can open up more creativity in your life. Whether it's learning to write a poem or learning to grow herbs or learning to paint or whatever it is, it's something that fires up your creativity and makes you go, I'm really engaged. And I think so many people, like we had a dentist in here a while back that he was in his early 40s, and he was saying, I'm really a good dentist and I make $400,000 a year and everybody's happy with it, but I feel like if I keep doing it, I'm going to die. And when it came right down to it, it was because he had set aside his own creative essence way back 20 years ago to go to college and to get his degree in dentistry and then to get his practice going. And I said, well, if you could access your creativity, what would you do? And he said, well, I'd take a year off and do nothing but write poems, because that's what he liked to do 30 years ago before he got into dentistry. But I said, hey, look, you don't have to take a year off. How about writing a poem before midnight tonight and send it to me, email it to me? And so, because you don't need to go to the other end of the universe to access your creativity. It's something that we can turn on right now. And so I'm so happy because in his case, he was able to get that flow going again with his creativity and felt like he had some life going on in himself again. And so I love that when that happens, because it says to me that human beings, no matter where we are and how stuck we get, we always have the power to rebirth our own potential.
So, Gay, expanding upon that, from your body of work, all the years that you've been doing this, what would you say are perhaps one or two of the biggest things that lead to a failed relationship, that if someone realized they could have a breakthrough and turn it around?
Well, probably number one is what causes relationships to go wrong and go off track is that somebody or the other or both people stop telling the truth about something important. And it could be something, it doesn't have to be telling the truth about having an affair or something like that is one thing, but most of the time it's something more simple than that. It's not that both people are having an affair or anything, it's that they're hiding certain feelings from themselves and each other. They may be incredibly sad about something or incredibly scared about something or angry about something, but they're not communicating about it. And so in fact, they're going out of their way not to tell the truth about those things to the other person. And after a while, if you stop telling the truth to another person, you start thinking of them as the reason you're not telling the truth. Like, I'm not telling the truth to my partner because I don't trust that they'll listen to it, or something like that. And so what needs to happen in many, many cases is as simple as finding out what that truth is that's been swept under the rug for so long, and to get it back into the open and to get both people communicating about those kinds of things. So that would be one thing, the ability to speak honestly and authentically, and the ability to listen to another person's authentic speaking. The second thing that is so important in relationships is that you've got to eliminate or reduce blame and criticism, because blame and criticism are two toxic elements of relationship that if they go on too long, it's kind of like having a rock in your shoe. You get used to it maybe, but you can't walk as well because you keep stepping on the same painful place every time. And so one of the things that you need to do is find out, what is all this blame and criticism all about? But one of the important ways you do it is by learning how to take healthy responsibility for things. In other words, instead of blaming your mate, why aren't you listening to me? That's a blameful kind of statement. Instead, taking responsibility and say, how can I communicate to this other person in a way that really gets me heard? And so taking responsibility for not only the quality of your speaking, but the quality of your listening and the quality of how you're being received. And so it's important, however you can do it, to get a handle on blame and criticism and begin to eliminate it, because if you don't, it becomes, it's kind of like termites. One or two termites don't cause a problem, but pretty soon you've got a whole house full eating the foundations away. And that's often how those things get started.
The book is Conscious Loving Ever After: How to Create Thriving Relationships at Midlife and Beyond. If you would like to get more information about Gay and his wife and their work, you can visit their website, hendricks.com. Gay, thank you so much for being here with us and for helping us create relationships that can enrich our lives. I think more now than ever, this information is so important for us to learn. So thank you again for being here.
My pleasure, Joan.
We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.